My name is Noah. I've never been what you'd call a natural athlete throughout. High school, I was the skinny kid who was always picked last for teams in PE, the one who could barely throw a football in a straight line, and who tripped over his own feet during basketball. I didn't mind too much. I had other strengths. I excelled academically, particularly in computer science, which eventually landed me a comfortable job developing software for a mid-sized tech company in Boston. By 26, I had settled into a comfortable, if somewhat predictable, routine. I worked long hours, ordered too much takeout, and spent my weekends either coding personal projects or binge watching whatever series had captured my attention. My apartment was walking distance from my office, which meant I rarely needed to venture far from my neighborhood. It was a life of convenience, if not excitement. It was my doctor who finally intervened during my annual physical. Your blood pressure is elevated, Noah, she said, glancing over her glasses at me, and your cholesterol isn't where I'd like it to be for someone your age. How much exercise are you getting these days? I shifted uncomfortably on the examination table. I walked to work. She gave me a look that suggested this was an insufficient answer. I'm recommending you incorporate some regular cardiovascular exercise into your routine at least 3 times a week, minimum 30 minutes. Your body needs movement, especially given how many hours you spend sitting at a computer. I nodded vaguely, planning to ignore the advice as I had similar suggestions in the past, but she surprised me by pulling out a business card. This is a gym near your neighborhood, good facilities, professional staff. I know the head trainer there. He's excellent with beginners. Tell him Dr. Levi sent you. I took the card reluctantly. Evolver Fitness Center. The name alone intimidated me, conjuring images of muscled behemoths grunting over impossibly heavy weights. I'll think about it, I said, which both of us recognized as polite evasion. She sighed. Noah, you're young, but health problems can accelerate quickly if ignored. I'm not asking you to become a bodybuilder, just move more, find something active you enjoy. The genuine concern in her voice made it harder to dismiss her advice. I tucked the card into my wallet, where it remained for 3 weeks, until a particularly grueling project at work left me with tension, headaches, and a persistent feeling that my life had become unbalanced. On an uncharacteristically impulsive Saturday morning, I found myself standing outside Evolver Fitness Center, questioning my decision. Even as I pushed through the glass doors, the interior was less intimidating than I'd feared. While there were certainly some impressive physical specimens using the weight equipment, I also noticed people of various ages and fitness levels on cardio machines in the stretching area and moving between different workout stations. The space was well lit and clean, with none of the aggressive "no pain, no gain" slogans I had half expected plastered on the walls. At the reception desk, a friendly woman with a high ponytail took my information and explained the membership options. When I mentioned Dr. Levi had referred me, her eyebrows rose slightly. In that case, we'll set you up with a complimentary session with Tyler, our head trainer. He usually works with Dr. Levi's referrals personally. Before I could formulate an objection, she was typing into her computer. He has an opening tomorrow at 10:00 a.m. Does that work for you? 24 hours later, I was back at the gym, wearing the only workout clothes I owned, basketball shorts from college and a faded tech company t-shirt, feeling distinctly out of place among the regulars who moved confidently through their routines. I was contemplating a strategic retreat when a voice called my name. No, I'm Tyler. Dar Levi mentioned you might be stopping by. I turned to find myself facing a man who embodied everything I was not physically speaking. He was about my height, but significantly broader, with a kind of defined musculature that spoke of years of disciplined training. His dark hair was cut short, his eyes a startling blue against his tan skin. The Evolver Fitness staff t-shirt he wore fit snugly across his chest and shoulders high. I managed, suddenly self-conscious in my mismatched workout attire. Yes, she suggested I needed to start exercising. Tyler smiled, revealing a slight dimple in his right cheek. Well, you've come to the right place. Why don't we start with a quick assessment and discussion of your goals? My office is Back this way, I followed him through the gym, uncomfortably aware of the contrast between his confident stride and my own. Awkward gate. His office was small but organized with framed certifications on the walls and a desk neatly arranged with client folders and a laptop. Have a seat, he said, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. So tell me about your current fitness level and what you're hopping to achieve over the next 20 minutes. I found myself surprisingly comfortable sharing details about my sedentary lifestyle, my work stresses, and my general lack of athletic inclination. Tyler listened attentively, occasionally making notes, never exhibiting the judgment I had feared from someone so obviously dedicated to physical fitness. Here's what I suggest, he said when I'd finished. We start with twice weekly sessions focused on building basic strength and improving your cardiovascular health. Nothing extreme, sustainable exercise that will help address the issues Dr. Levi identified without overwhelming you. As you progress, we can adjust the program to match your improving fitness and any specific areas you want to focus on. His approach was so reasonable and unthreatening that I found myself nodding. That sounds manageable. Great. Tyler smiled again, that dimple reappearing. Let's get started with a brief workout today just to establish baselines and get you familiar with some of the equipment. Do you have any questions before we head out to the floor? I had dozens, but settled on the most immediate. Where are the changing rooms? I came straight from home, so I'm already dressed, but for future reference, I'll give you the full tour, he promised. Standing, including all the facilities. Follow me. Tyler was thorough and patient as he showed me around the gym, explaining the purpose of various machines, pointing out the less busy times when a beginner might feel more comfortable, and eventually leading me to the changing rooms. We have private shower stalls, lockers that you can secure with your own lock or one provided at reception, and all the basic amenities you might need, he explained. As we entered the spacious area, several men were in various stages of changing, but the room was large enough that it didn't feel crowded. This might sound stupid, I said quietly, but I've never actually used a gym changing room before. Is there etiquette I should know about rather than laugh? Tyler nodded seriously. It's not a stupid question, basically respect others' space and privacy. Clean up after yourself, don't take too long in the showers during busy times, and if you're uncomfortable changing in the open area, there are private changing cubicles at the far end. Most people are focused on their own routines and aren't paying attention to anyone else. His matter of fact approach alleviated some of my anxiety. As we left the changing room, he added, and if you ever feel uncomfortable for any reason, let me or another staff member know. We want everyone to feel safe and welcome here. The rest of our session consisted of Tyler guiding me through a series of basic exercises to assess my strength, flexibility, and coordination. To my surprise, I wasn't as hopelessly inept as I had feared. My core strength was decent from years of good posture at my desk, and while my cardiovascular endurance was poor, Tyler assured me it would improve quickly with consistent effort. By the end of our hour together, I was sweaty and slightly sore, but also experiencing an unexpected sense of accomplishment. Tyler had a gift for offering encouragement without condescension and for making adjustments that allowed me to succeed at a modified version of an exercise when the standard form proved too challenging. So what do you think, he asked as we concluded, ready to commit to those twice weekly sessions? I surprised myself by nodding yes, I think so. When are you available? We settled on Tuesday and Saturday mornings, times when the gym was relatively quiet and I could focus without feeling self-conscious. As I prepared to leave, Tyler handed me a printed sheet with simple exercises I could do at home between our sessions. Nothing too strenuous, he assured me, just to maintain the momentum between our workouts. See you Tuesday. Noah. I left feeling strangely energized despite the physical exertion, a sensation I hadn't experienced in years. Perhaps I thought this fitness journey might not be as terrible as I had anticipated. Over the next few weeks, my sessions with Tyler became anchors in my weekly routine. Each Tuesday and Saturday, I would arrive at the gym with a mixture of apprehension and growing excitement. Tyler was consistently encouraging. gradually increasing the challenge of our workouts as my strength and stamina improved, but never pushing me beyond what I could realistically handle. I began to notice small changes. Stairs didn't leave me as winded. I slept more soundly, and the tension headaches that had plagued me for months became less frequent. The physical benefits were expected if welcome. What surprised me more was how much I looked forward to the sessions themselves, particularly the easy conversation that flowed between Tyler and me as we worked. He had a talent for asking questions that distracted me from the discomfort of a challenging exercise, drawing out stories about my work, my background, my interests outside of technology. In return, he shared bits of his own life, his childhood in a small town in Oregon, his college football career cut short by a knee injury, his passion for helping people discover their physical potential. There was a genuineness to him that I rarely encountered in my tech-focused social circle, a straightforward quality that I found increasingly appealing. I realized I was developing something of a CR around the 6-week mark when I caught myself spending extra time selecting workout clothes and making sure my hair looked decent before our sessions. It was embarrassing, really. The scrawny software developer infatuated with his objectively gorgeous personal trainer, a cliché, and one that I was determined not to act upon given the professional nature of our relationship and the astronomical odds that someone like Tyler would be interested in someone like me. Nevertheless, our twice-weekly sessions became the highlight of my routine, and I found myself thinking about him during the days in between. I rationalized that it was natural to develop a certain attachment to someone who was helping me improve myself, who saw me at my most vulnerable, yet never made me feel inadequate. It was just a harmless crush that would fade as the novelty of the training wore off. Around the 2-month mark, Tyler suggested we adjust our schedule. You've made excellent progress, he said during a Saturday session. I think you're ready to increase to 3 sessions a week. If you can manage it, it would really accelerate your results. I hesitated, not because I didn't want the additional training, but because I wasn't sure my fragile heart could handle more time in Tyler's company without my feelings becoming embarrassingly obvious. I could fit in. A Thursday evening, I said, finally, rational mind overruling emotional caution. Would that work for you? Thursday at 6:30 would be perfect, he agreed. We'll focus on upper body strength that day since we're already addressing lower body and cardio in the other sessions. The new schedule meant that Thursday evenings found me at the gym during one of its busier periods. The changing room was typically crowded with professionals stopping in after work, which added an unfamiliar layer of stress to my routine. Despite Tyler's earlier assurances about changing room etiquette, I still felt self-conscious, typically changing quickly in one of the private cubicles or arriving already dressed in my workout clothes when possible. One Thursday, about 3 weeks into our new schedule, a plumbing issue in my apartment building meant I arrived at the gym without having showered that day. I felt grimy and uncomfortable after a long work day, but there wasn't time to use the gym showers before my session with Tyler. You seem distracted today, he noted, as I struggled through a set of dumbbell presses. Everything okay? I grimaced, lowering the weight. Sorry. Rough day at work and then came home to no water in my building. I feel gross and unfocused. Tyler nodded sympathetically. That explains it. Look, why don't we cut this one a bit short? You can grab a shower here and we'll make up the time on Saturday. The suggestion was tempting. My muscles were protesting more than usual, and the thought of a hot shower was incredibly appealing. You sure? I don't want to waste your time. It's not a waste, he assured me. Better to have a shorter focus session than push through when you're not in the right headspace. Quality over quantity, right? I couldn't argue with his logic. We wrapped up with some light stretching, and then Tyler walked me back toward the changing rooms. Take your time, get cleaned up, and I'll see you Saturday. Text me if your water isn't back on. I have a comfortable couch if you need a place to crack. The casual offer of hospitality caught me off guard. Thanks, I appreciate that. Hopefully it'll be fixed by tonight, though. Tyler gave me a light pat on the shoulder, a gesture he often used to encourage or reassure me during our sessions, and headed back toward the gym floor. I made my way into the changing room which was busy but not packed at this transitional time between the afterwork crowd and evening. Exercisers finding a vacant shower stall was a relief. I let the hot water slew over my tired muscles, washing away the day's accumulation of stress and sweat as the tension melted from my body. My mind drifted to Tyler's offer of his couch, the casual way he'd extended what felt like more than professional courtesy. Was I reading too much into a simple act of kindness? Probably it seemed increasingly impossible to maintain objective perspective where he was concerned. Lost in these thoughts, I stayed in the shower longer than intended. By the time I emerged, towel wrapped around my waist, the changing room had largely emptied out. I moved to my locker, retrieving clean clothes and considering whether I should dress there or return to a private cubicle. The decision was made for me when I heard Tyler's voice behind me. "Oh, sorry, didn't realize you were still here." I turned, clutching my clothes to my chest like a shield, acutely aware of my near-nakedness. Tyler stood a few feet away, gym bag in hand, his staff t-shirt exchanged for a simple gray hoodie. Just finished my shower, I managed, feeling heat rise to my face that had nothing to do with the hot water. Lost track of time, I guess. Tyler nodded, moving past me toward a locker several spaces down. "No rush, I'm just grabbing my things before heading out." He opened his locker, retrieving a water bottle and some protein bars, seemingly unaffected by the awkwardness I was feeling. I should have taken the opportunity to retreat to a private cubicle, but something kept me rooted to the spot, perhaps the realization that this was the first time I'd seen Tyler in a context that wasn't explicitly a training session. He appeared slightly different outside of his professional role, more relaxed. The careful distance he maintained as a trainer somehow diminished in this neutral space. "How's the rest of your evening looking?" I asked, immediately regretting the question. It sounded like I was fishing for information, or worse, angling for an invitation. Tyler glanced over his expression, unreadable. "Pretty quiet. Thursdays are usually my catch-up nights, laundry, meal prep for the week, that kind of thing." He hesitated, then added, "What about you? Heading back to check on your water situation?" "Yeah, though I'm not optimistic," the building superintendent said. "It could be tomorrow before it's fixed." Tyler closed his locker, turning to face me fully. "My offer stands. You know the couch isn't luxury accommodation, but it's comfortable enough for a night." Something in his tone made me look at him more carefully. There was a slight tension in his posture that hadn't been there during our training sessions, a hint of uncertainty in his expression that seemed at odds with his usual confident demeanor. "I wouldn't want to impose," I said carefully. "It's not an imposition," he replied, equally measured. "It's what friends do, right?" Friends, the word hung between us, carrying a weight beyond its simple definition. Were we friends? Our relationship had certainly evolved beyond the transactional trainer-client dynamic, but we'd never interacted outside the gym context. Yet there was an undeniable connection that had developed over our months of working together. Comfort in each other's company that transcended professional boundaries. "Right," I agreed. "Finally friends. In that case, if my water isn't back by tonight, I might take you up on that couch." Tyler smiled, that familiar dimple appearing. "Good, just text me if you need the address." He shouldered his gym bag, then added with deliberate casualness, "IW as going to order takeout anyway. Thai food okay with you?" "Thai is perfect," I said, my heart beating a little faster at this subtle shift in our dynamic. "Great, let me know." He gave a small wave and headed toward the exit, leaving me standing by my locker, still clutching my clothes, trying to process what had just happened. I dressed quickly, my mind racing through the implications of the exchange. Was this simply a kind gesture from someone who had come to see me as a friend, or was there something more to the invitation, a testing of waters beyond our established roles? I was probably overthinking it, projecting my own feelings onto a straightforward offer of hospitality. Sure enough, when I arrived home, the water was still off, with a notice indicating repairs would likely continue into the next day. After a moment's hesitation, I texted Tyler, "Superintendent says no water until tomorrow. If your couch offer still stands, I'd be grateful." His response came quickly, "Absolutely." 2847 Westfield, a app 3B buzzer says Reynolds thief food on its way, ETA 45 mins good for you and just. Like that I found myself packing an overnight bag and heading to my personal trainer's apartment trying to convince myself this was a perfectly normal development in a professional appropriate relationship. Tyler's apartment was in a converted warehouse building in a trendy neighborhood about 20 minutes from my own place. The space reflected his personality, clean and organized but not Spartan, with comfortable furniture, framed photography on the walls, his own work I would later learn, and a surprising number of house plants thriving in the large windows that lined one wall. Welcome to my humble abode, he said, stepping back to let me in. Make yourself at home. Food should be here in about 15 minutes. The initial awkwardness I had feared didn't materialize. Tyler moved easily around the space, offering me water. The irony wasn't lost on either of us, showing me where the bathroom was and pointing out the couch that would be my bed for the night. His natural warmth and the familiar rapport we'd established during our training sessions translated seamlessly to this new context. By the time the food arrived, we were settled on opposite ends of his couch, conversation flowing as easily as it did during our workouts. We ate directly from the takeout containers, passing them back and forth, debating the merits of different Thai dishes and restaurants in the city. So how did you end up as a personal trainer? I asked as we finished eating. You mentioned playing football in college. Was fitness always the plan? Tyler leaned back, stretching his legs out in front of him. Not exactly. I was pre-med actually. The plan was to become a sports medicine physician, but after the knee injury ended my football career, I went through a pretty intense rehabilitation process. My physical therapist was amazing, really changed my perspective on what was possible for my body. Despite the injury, I became fascinated with the rehab process, with helping people discover their physical potential regardless of their starting point. He paused, a slight smile playing at his lips. Much to my parents' dismay, I switched my major to exercise science, got certified as a personal trainer, and never looked back. They've come around now that they see how fulfilled I am. But there were some tense family dinners for a while there. I can imagine, I said, thinking of my own parents' reaction if I had suddenly abandoned my carefully plotted technology career. But it obviously suits you. You're really good at what you do. Thanks, he said, looking genuinely pleased at the compliment. What about you? Always been a computer guy. I nodded. Pretty much. I built my first website when I was 12, taught myself coding languages through high school, and majored in computer science in college. It was always the path of least resistance for me. I was good at it, it came naturally, and the career prospects were solid. I've never had that moment of questioning or redirection like you did. Do you enjoy it? Though, Tyler asked, his expression curious. You talk about it being the path of least resistance, not something you're passionate about. The question caught me off guard. No one had asked me that in a long time, maybe ever. I don't dislike it, I said slowly. The problem-solving aspects are satisfying, and I like creating things that are useful to people, but passionate, I'm not sure. It's hard to be passionate about debugging code at 2 a.m. because a client needs a fix before morning. Tyler nodded thoughtfully. That makes sense. Not everyone needs their job to be their passion, but it's good to have something in your life that does ignite that feeling. Like what? I asked, genuinely curious about what moved him beyond his work. For me, it's photography, he said, gesturing to the framed images on his walls. Landscapes mainly. I get out of the city whenever I can find remote places and try to capture something that moves me. The combination of physical challenge, hiking to a specific location, waiting for perfect light, and creative expression really centers me. I looked more carefully at the photographs. Dramatic coastlines, mist-shrouded mountains, forests captured in the golden hours of dawn or dusk. They revealed a sensitivity and artistic eye I hadn't associated with the practical body focused trainer. I knew these are beautiful, I said honestly. You're really talented. A slight flush colored his cheeks at the praise. Thanks, it's just a hobby, but it's important to me. He hesitated, then asked, what about you? What ignites that passion? I couldn't remember the last time someone had asked me that question, and I found myself without a ready answer. I used to play piano, I said, Finally was pretty serious about it through high school, even considered a music minor in college, but I let it slide as work took over. Haven't touched a keyboard in years now, you should pick it up again, Tyler suggested. It's never too late to reconnect with something that once brought you joy. Maybe, I acknowledged, though the idea seemed distant, a relic of a different version of myself. The conversation drifted from there to other topics. Favorite films, travel experiences, the books currently on our nightstands. It was the longest, uninterrupted conversation we'd ever had without the structure of a workout to dictate our interactions, and I found myself increasingly comfortable in this new dimension of our relationship. Eventually, Tyler glanced at his watch. It's getting late and we both have early starts tomorrow. Let me get you set up on the couch. He disappeared, briefly returning with a pillow and neatly folded sheets and blankets. Together we transformed the couch into a makeshift bed, our hands occasionally brushing as we tucked sheets into cushions, a domestic collaboration that felt strangely intimate. Bathrooms all yours if you want to get ready for bed, Tyler offered. When we finished, there are fresh towels under the sink if you need them. I thanked him and retreated to the bathroom with my overnight bag, going through my evening routine with a heightened awareness that I was in Tyler's personal space, using his shower surrounded by his belongings. When I emerged in sleep clothes, a t-shirt and flannel pants, he was waiting to take his turn. All set, he asked, and I nodded. Great, I'll try not to wake you when I get up. I have an early client at 6 a.m. Help yourself to anything in the kitchen for breakfast. Coffee maker is pretty self-explanatory. Thanks again for this, I said, suddenly awkward now that the night was coming to an end. I really appreciate it any time, he replied, and something in his tone made me believe he meant it literally, that his home was genuinely open to me beyond this one-time emergency. Sleep well, Noah. After he disappeared into the bathroom, I settled onto the couch, which was indeed comfortable as was promised. Despite the unfamiliar surroundings, I felt strangely at ease. The day had taken an unexpected turn, but as I drifted toward sleep in Tyler's apartment, surrounded by evidence of his life beyond our gym interactions, I couldn't bring myself to regret it. I woke the next morning to the smell of coffee and the sound of quiet movement in the kitchen. Blinking in the early morning light filtering through the windows, I saw Tyler moving efficiently around the small space, dressed for work in his Evolver fitness gear, preparing what looked like a protein shake. Morning, he said when he noticed I was awake. Sorry if I woke you. Coffee's ready if you want some. I sat up, running a hand through my sleep. Tzz hair, suddenly self-conscious. Thanks. What time is it? Just after 5:30. I need to head out in a few minutes, but like I said, make yourself at home. Stay as long as you need to. I nodded, accepting the mug of coffee he offered. Our fingers brushed briefly during the exchange, a small contact that nonetheless sent a current of awareness through me. I should get going soon too, I said. Need to swing by my place for a change of clothes before work. Tyler nodded, finishing his protein shake in efficient gulps. Let me know if your water's still out tonight. The couch is yours for as long as you need it. The casual offer hung in the air between us, heavy with unspoken implications. Before I could formulate a response, Tyler glanced at his watch and grimaced. I've got to run. Lock up when you leave. The door automatically locks behind you. He hesitated, then added, see you tomorrow for our regular session. Definitely, I confirmed, raising my coffee mug in a small salute with a final smile and wave. He was gone, leaving me alone in his apartment, surrounded by the evidence of his life outside the gym. The photography books stacked on the coffee table, the collection of vintage rock band t-shirts visible in the laundry basket, the homemade granola in a glass jar on the kitchen counter. Each detail revealed another facet of Tyler beyond the professional persona I had come to know, making him simultaneously more real and more intimidating in his complexity. I finished my coffee, cleaned up after myself, and left his apartment with a strange reluctance, as if stepping out of a dream and back into mundane reality. To my relief, the water in my building had been restored. When I arrived home, I texted Tyler to let him know, thanking him again for his hospitality. His response was prompt and warm. Glad to hear it. It was nice having Company for a change. See you tomorrow. Our Saturday session proceeded with our usual routine, but there was a subtle shift in our dynamic, a new ease between us, references to conversations we'd had. In his apartment, small jokes that carried the weight of shared experience beyond the gym context. It was as if a barrier had been crossed, allowing a friendship to develop alongside our professional relationship. Over the following weeks, this friendship continued to grow. Occasionally, after our sessions, we'd grab coffee at the cafe next to the gym. Tyler recommended books he thought I might enjoy, and I sent him links to music that reminded me of his photography. We began texting about things unrelated to fitness, a documentary he thought I'd like, a new Thai restaurant I discovered that rivaled our takeout favorite. Yet despite this growing closeness, there remained an invisible line neither of us seemed willing to cross. During training sessions, Tyler maintained his professional demeanor, correcting my form with the same careful attention he'd always shown, never allowing physical contact to linger beyond what was necessary for instruction. Our conversations, while increasingly personal, never ventured into romantic territory. If my feelings for him were deepening, and they undeniably were, I did my best to keep them contained, valuing our friendship too much to risk making him uncomfortable. About 3 months after the water outage incident, we were in the gym changing room after a particularly challenging Saturday session. The room was nearly empty, most weekend warriors having completed their routines earlier in the day. I had just finished changing back into my street clothes when Tyler emerged from the shower area, towel wrapped around his waist. Hey, he said, seeming mildly surprised to find me still there. Thought you'd have headed out by now. Just taking my time, I replied, trying not to stare at water droplets trailing down his chest, the definition of muscle that I had felt beneath my hands during assisted stretches, but never actually seen so exposed. No rush today, he nodded, moving to his locker, which by coincidence or design was only a few spaces from mine. As he entered his combination, the towel slipped was only a few spaces from mine. As he entered his combination, the towel slipped slightly and he adjusted it with his free hand. The casual gesture sent an unwelcome heat through me, and I busied myself with organizing my gym bag to disguise my reaction. Any plans for the rest of the weekend? Tyler asked as he retrieved clean clothes from his locker. Nothing special, I admitted, probably catch up on some reading, maybe work on a side project I've been neglecting. I hesitated, then added, I was thinking of driving up to the coast tomorrow, trying to get some new shots for a photography project I'm working on. He pulled a t-shirt over his head, then turned to face me directly. Actually, I was wondering if you might want to join me. It's about a 2-hour drive, but the scenery is worth it. We could make a day of it. The invitation caught me off guard. We had established a friendship that extended beyond the gym. Yes, but this would be our first planned outing together, a deliberate choice to spend an entire day in each other's company. I'd like that, I said before I could overthink it. What time were you thinking of leaving? Early, if that's okay. The light is best just after sunrise. I could pick you up around 5:30. I nodded, ignoring the small voice of reason questioning whether this was a good idea, whether I could trust myself to spend an entire day with Tyler without revealing the full extent of my feelings. 5:30 is fine, I'll text you my address. Tyler smiled, that dimple appearing great. Dress in layers, it can be chilly on the coast, even in summer. He finished dressing and we walked out of the changing room together, discussing logistics for the next day's adventure. As we parted ways outside the gym, there was a moment, brief but unmistakable, when something shifted in his expression, a flicker of what might have been uncertainty or anticipation crossing his features before he raised a hand in farewell and turned toward his car. I spent the rest of the day in a state of nervous excitement, alternating between looking forward to our outing and chastising myself for reading too much into a friendly invitation. Tyler was an outdoor enthusiast who enjoyed photography. It was natural he might want company on a day trip. It didn't necessarily mean anything beyond that. The next morning dawned clear and cool, perfect conditions for coastal photography. Tyler arrived Precisely at 5:30, his car already loaded with camera equipment and a cooler that he explained contained lunch and snacks for the day. I wasn't sure what you like, so I made a variety, he said as we pulled away from my building. Hope that's okay. The thoughtfulness of the gesture, the fact that he had prepared food specifically with me in mind, added another layer to my growing realization that my feelings for Tyler had progressed well beyond a simple crush. This was something deeper, more substantial, a connection that had developed gradually through months of shared experiences, conversations, and mutual support. The drive to the coast passed quickly, filled with easy conversation and comfortable silences punctuated by Tyler's occasional comments about points of interest we passed. He was a natural storyteller, sharing anecdotes about previous photography expeditions, mishaps with weather and wildlife, the perfect shot that got away because of a dead battery, or unexpected company on a supposedly isolated beach. We arrived at our destination just as the sun was beginning to burn through the morning mist, casting a golden glow over the rugged coastline. Tyler parked in a small lot above a beach accessible by a winding trail down the cliff's side. It's a bit of a hike, he warned as we gathered his equipment and the cooler, but worth it for the isolation. Most tourists don't make it past the main beaches. The trail was indeed challenging, in places requiring careful navigation of steep, sometimes slippery sections. Tyler led the way, occasionally reaching back to offer a hand over particularly difficult passages. Each brief contact, his fingers around my wrist, his palm against mine, sent a subtle current through me that had nothing to do with physical exertion. The beach itself was a hidden gem, a crescent of sand enclosed by dramatic rock formations, completely deserted save for the seabirds wheeling overhead. Tyler immediately set to work, moving along the shoreline with his camera, searching for compositions that captured the interplay of light, water, and stone. I gave him space to work, settling on a driftwood log to watch both the spectacular scenery and Tyler himself. Absorbed in his craft, there was something compelling about seeing him in this element, so different from the gym environment where I usually encountered him. His movements were deliberate but fluid, his focus absolute as he framed shots, adjusted settings, and occasionally consulted a small notebook he kept in his pocket. The passion he had described was evident in every aspect of his process, from the careful consideration of light angles to the quiet exclamation of satisfaction when he captured something particularly striking. After about an hour, he returned to where I was sitting, reviewing images on his camera's display with obvious pleasure. Got some good ones, he said, settling beside me on the log. Want to see? He handed me the camera, our fingers brushing in the exchange. I scrolled through the images, genuinely impressed by his eye for composition and his technical skill. The photos captured not just the obvious beauty of the location, but subtle details I might have overlooked: the pattern of water receding over sand, light filtering through a natural arch in the rocks, the texture of barnacles clustered on a tide smooth boulder. These are amazing, I said, returning the camera. You have a real talent for finding beauty in unexpected places. That's part of what I love about photography, he replied, gazing out at the ocean. It trains you to look more carefully at the world, to notice things that might otherwise pass unobserved. He turned to me, his expression thoughtful. It's not unlike what I try to do as a trainer, actually helping people recognize potential and beauty in themselves that they might have overlooked. The parallel struck me as both insightful and unexpectedly moving. I never thought about it that way, but that makes sense. You're very good at seeing what people are capable of, even when they can't see it themselves. A smile tugged at his lips, like a certain software developer who was convinced he was hopelessly unathletic but has now progressed to running a 5K without stopping. I laughed, acknowledging the truth in his gentle teasing. Fair point. I definitely couldn't have done that without your guidance. You did the work, he countered. I just provided the framework. His gaze held mine a moment longer than usual, something unspoken passing between us. Then he stood, brushing sand from his jeans. Hungry we could break out that lunch I packed. The day unfolded in a pleasant rhythm of exploration, conversation, and quiet companionship. After lunch, we walked the Length of the beach collecting interesting shells and stones discussing. Everything from childhood memories to future aspirations. Tyler took more photos, occasionally directing me to stand in particular locations to provide scale or human interest in a composition as the afternoon light began to soften, signaling it was time to begin the journey back before darkness made the cliff trail treacherous. Tyler asked for one last shot with me in the frame, positioned before a dramatic rock formation bathed in golden light. Just look out toward the horizon, he directed, adjusting his camera settings. Pretend I'm not even here, I did as instructed, gazing at the meeting point of sea and sky, trying to embody the natural ease he was seeking rather than the self-consciousness I felt at being his subject. After several clicks of the shutter, he lowered the camera, a curious expression crossing his face. What? I asked, suddenly concerned I had somehow ruined his composition. Nothing, he said quickly, just the light caught you perfectly. It's a good shot. There was something in his tone, a hint of revelation or surprise, that made me wonder exactly what he had seen through his viewfinder in that moment. Before I could ask, he was checking his watch and suggesting we start back up the trail while we still had good light. The hike back to the car was largely silent, both of us focused on navigating the increasingly shadowed path. At one particularly steep section, Tyler reached back to offer assistance, as he had on our descent this time. However, when my hand clasped his, he didn't immediately release me. Once the difficult passage was traversed, instead our hands remained linked for several steps beyond what was necessary, until a narrowing of the path finally forced us to separate. The drive back to the city was quieter than our morning journey, a comfortable tiredness settling over both of us after a day of fresh air and physical activity. As the landscape transitioned from rural to suburban to urban, I found myself wishing the drive would last longer, reluctant to end this day that had felt somehow separate from our normal reality. A pause between chapters when Tyler pulled up outside my apartment building. Neither of us immediately moved to end the encounter. Thank you for today, I said, finally turning in my seat to face him. It was I really enjoyed it. I'm glad, he replied, his expression soft in the dim light of the car interior. I did too, more than I expected. Actually, something about his phrasing caught my attention. What do you mean? He hesitated, his fingers tapping a gentle rhythm on the steering wheel. I've been going to that beach for years, always alone. It's my place to think, to reset. I've never brought anyone there before. The admission settled between us waited with implication. Why me? I asked, the question escaping before I could consider its wisdom. Tyler's gaze met mine directly. Because I've been thinking about you in ways that go beyond our trainer-client relationship for a while now. Because I wanted to share something important to me with someone important to me. Because I wasn't sure how else to signal that my feelings have evolved. The words hung in the air. A confession I had imagined in various forms but never truly expected to hear. My heart raced, uncertainty warring with hope. I didn't think. I began, then stopped, reorganizing my thoughts. I've been careful not to let my feelings interfere with our professional relationship. I valued your friendship too much to risk making things uncomfortable. Your feelings, Tyler echoed, a cautious optimism entering his expression. I nodded, gathering courage from his earlier honesty. I've been attracted to you since our first session. If I'm being completely honest, it started as a physical thing. I mean, look at you, but it's become so much more than that over time. I just never thought you might feel the same way. A slow smile spread across his face, crinkling the corners of his eyes. We've both been pretty careful, haven't we? Professional during sessions, friendly, but not too friendly outside of them. Very careful, I agreed. Too careful, maybe, he echoed, then reached across the center console, his hand finding mine. So where does that leave us now? I looked down at our linked hands, then back to his face, illuminated by the soft glow of a nearby street light. I'm not sure there are practical considerations. You're still my trainer, for one thing. I could refer you to another trainer at Evolver, he suggested, if that would make things easier. The idea of losing our twice-weekly sessions sent an unexpected pang through me. I'd miss working with you, I admitted. You've become such an important part of my routine. My Progress. Tyler considered this, his thumb tracing small circles on the back of my hand. What if we kept the professional relationship for now, but we're honest about exploring something personal as well? We'd need to be clear about boundaries, keeping training sessions focused on fitness, saving personal developments for outside the gym. Do you think that could work? I asked, both hopeful and uncertain. I think it's worth trying, he said simply. If it becomes too complicated, we can reevaluate, but I don't want to give up either aspect of our connection if we don't have to. His practical approach, the thoughtful consideration of how we might navigate this transition, was quintessentially Tyler. It reassured me that this wasn't an impulsive attraction but something he had given serious thought to, weighing potential complications against the value of what we might build together. Okay, I agreed. We try carefully. His smile deepened, that right side dimple appearing carefully. He repeated then, after a moment's hesitation, would it be crossing a boundary if I kissed you right now? Technically, we're not at the gym. A laugh escaped me, tension breaking. I think that would be within acceptable parameters. He leaned across the center console, one hand coming up to cut my jaw. The kiss was gentle at first, a question rather than a demand, but deepened as I responded, months of carefully contained feelings finding expression in the connection. When we finally separated, Tyler rested his forehead against mine, his breathing slightly uneven. I've been wanting to do that since that morning in my apartment, he confessed. When you were sitting on my couch with bed head and sleepy eyes, drinking my coffee. That long? I asked, surprised. Longer, if I'm being honest, but that was when I stopped being able to pretend it was just friendly interest. I kissed him again briefly, but with feeling we should probably continue this conversation when we're not parked on a public street. He laughed, pulling back reluctantly. Good point. Would you like to come up to my place for coffee or dinner, or whatever comes next in this conversation? The invitation held obvious implications, but there was no pressure in his tone, just an open possibility. I'd like that, I said, but maybe we save the whatever comes next for another time. This feels important enough to take slowly. Tyler nodded, appreciation evident in his expression. I agree. Coffee and conversation it is. As we gathered our things from in the car and headed toward my building, I felt a sense of rightness settle over me. The careful path we had navigated from trainer and client to friends to this new uncharted territory felt natural in its progression, each step building on the foundation of mutual respect and genuine connection we had established. In the following weeks, we developed a rhythm to our evolving relationship. During training sessions at the gym, Tyler maintained his professional demeanor, focusing on my fitness goal with the same dedicated attention he had always shown. If his hands lingered occasionally during form corrections, if our eyes held contact a moment longer than strictly necessary during rest periods, these were small acknowledgments of the deeper connection developing outside the gym context. The changing room became a transitional space between our professional and personal dynamics. By unspoken agreement, we maintained appropriate distance there, conscious of the public setting and the boundaries we had established, but there was a palpable anticipation in those moments, gathering belongings, exchanging casual comments about plans for the evening, knowing that once we left the gym, different possibilities awaited outside of training. We explored our connection with the same careful intentionality that characterized everything Tyler did. Dinners at our growing list of favorite restaurants, weekend hikes where Tyler combined his passions for photography and my company, quiet evenings in one of our apartments sharing books or films, or simply conversation. Each encounter deepened my understanding of this man who had begun as my trainer and was becoming something far more significant. Physical intimacy developed gradually, each step forward a mutual decision rather than a rush toward the inevitable. There was a delicious tension in the slow progression, a savoring of each new discovery. From the first night Tyler stayed over at my place, just sleeping, his arm a warm weight across my waist, to the eventual full expression of our desire for each other throughout it all. What impressed me most was Tyler's consistency, the same quality that made him an excellent trainer translated to how he approached our relationship. He Was attentive without being possessive, honest about his feelings without creating pressure, committed to building something lasting rather than seeking quick gratification. 6 months after our coastal photography trip, as we lay tangled together in my bed on a lazy Sunday morning, Tyler propped himself up on one elbow to look at me, his expression thoughtful. What I asked, reaching up to trace the line of his jaw, still marveling sometimes that I was allowed this intimacy. I was just thinking about that first day you came to the gym, he said, catching my hand and pressing a kiss to the palm. You looked so uncomfortable. Like you were certain you didn't belong there. At the memory, I was terrified. Convinced I was going to make a fool of myself and that everyone, especially you, would judge me for being so hopelessly uncoordinated. And now look at you, he said with evident pride, running half marathons, lifting weights that would have seemed impossible a year ago, moving with confidence both in and out of the gym. I had a good teacher, I acknowledged, someone who saw potential I didn't know I had. That's the thing about potential, Tyler said, his expression softening. Sometimes it takes someone else's perspective to help us recognize what's already there waiting to be developed. I smiled at the double meaning in his words, like a photographer finding beauty that others might miss, exactly like that. He leaned down to kiss me, a gentle press of lips that still held the power to quicken my pulse. Thank you for letting me see you, Noah, in the gym and beyond. As I pulled him closer, deepening the kiss into something more urgent, I reflected on the unexpected journey that had brought us to this point. What had begun in a changing room conversation about gym etiquette had evolved into the most significant relationship of my adult life, a partnership that had transformed not just my physical health but my understanding of my own capabilities, my vision of what my life could be. My name is Noah, and a doctor's referral to address elevated blood pressure led me not just to improved physical health but to a love I never anticipated, proving that sometimes the most significant changes in our lives begin in the most ordinary circumstances, like a nervous first day at a gym, a chance encounter in a changing room, and the careful guidance of a trainer who became so much more.